How do we start getting in our flow state to help our brain start to take a break? And what is the flow state even about? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's episode. Welcome to the Balance Code Podcast, a place where you have permission to step outside the hamster wheel of day to day life and learn tools to create more balance. My name is Katie Rössler. I'm a licensed therapist and burnout and hidden grief specialist. I support ambitious, goal driven people who are ready to get off the one way train to burnout and start to enjoy life to the fullest. Oh, and by the way, I'm an American living in Germany who's still learning the language, mom of 3, and an entrepreneur. Living my balance code is what keeps me able to work in incredible ways without burning out. Welcome back to the podcast. Okay, I have been reading this incredible book, and some of you may already be reading it. If you're on my newsletter, you know I've been talking about it, but it's Johann Hari's Stolen Focus. I am loving the discussions he's having in this book. And I call them discussions because I'm having a discussion in my mind with him as he's writing. So every chapter just helps you break apart different ways. Scientifically, our brains are struggling with focus. And it's a pretty big book, if you're watching, you see. There's a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are stealing our focus and creating a dynamic of us needing sort of like the instant gratification and the go, go, go. But there's a particular chapter that I was really drawn to because it reminded me of an activity that I love doing. So in my family growing up, we always did puzzles. I love doing puzzles. Like I literally get puzzles at Christmas time, like usually 2 or 3 of them. 1,000-piece or more puzzles. I love them. And since I can remember, I would go home to my grandmother's house for Christmas and do a puzzle on her big circle wooden coffee table. And it was one of those like lower to the ground coffee tables. So everybody got on their knees or on a little stool and we'd all work together. This is like an activity where I turn my mind off and I just do it. And I lose track of time. I'm just in the flow. So this past weekend, I was working on a 1,000-piece puzzle with my girls. We have this big puzzle mat that we lay on the floor and we can roll it up when it's time to get it out of the way. And we were laying all the pieces out that we wanted to start working with. And it was just this gorgeous puzzle of this like African safari kind of sunset look, right? So gorgeous. And we're going about it. And then I look up at the time and I'm like, it's past dinner time. And I haven't even started making dinner. I totally lost track of time. And that's one of the things I love about puzzles is because I get in the flow and I completely lose track of time. I'm not thinking about anything heavy. I'm not over analyzing or hyper focusing on anything. And now, because my oldest are 7 and 9, we get to do this activity together. Now, my 3-year-old likes to involve herself in it, but she's more of the like, give me a piece, show me where it goes, and then give me praise that I did that thing. You know, we all have those people in our lives. They're not always 3 years old. And so that's how she's a part of it. That does break my focus if I'm honest. But I love for her to be a part of it because eventually she'll be of age where we'll start to do bigger puzzles because I'll have 4 of us doing it. Epic, right? Like, whoa. Anyways, my heart's singing a little bit with that idea. So I just got in the flow. And there is something in the book, in the particular chapter where he talks about the flow state. And the flow state is when we do an activity, just one that we're so focused on, and it has just the right amount of challenge that keeps our focus, right? We're not like, oh, this is boring or this is too easy. It has the level of challenge where we don't have to critically heavily think about what we're doing, that we just get in the flow. Now, for some of you, that might be even just like reading a novel, right? Like you start reading in the morning and then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, the sun's going down, right? Or maybe you paint, maybe you go climbing, maybe you go for runs. You know, there's all sorts of different flow state activities. But the key is finding out what your flow state activity is. Why? Well, as I mentioned, my brain gets to turn off when I do the puzzle. I'm not thinking about a bazillion other things. Sometimes I will start to think about something, but my brain doesn't attach to what I'm thinking about. Because when we're in a flow state, our brains can relax. And when our brains are relaxed, they're integrating. So when people talk about rest is productive and flow state is productive, it is because our brains are finally integrating all of the information that we're putting into it. I just want you to think about in one day how much reading and listening and watching you do, how many decisions you have to make. How many decisions do you make before 10 a.m.? Right? Like it's just endless. And all of that takes a lot of brain power. But if we don't create pauses in our day, create moments of turning off in a sense, and I don't mean doom scrolling on our phone or binge watching a YouTube series or something, right? Like, I really mean doing something like this one activity where you're in it. Some people love to do like coloring projects, right? Like, I used to have a lot of my clients, even adult clients, color in sessions so that their brains would turn off. Because when you're coloring, you know how to color, right? You're just coloring. And especially if you're just doing it for you and you don't, not worried somebody's going to see it, you're just coloring. Your brain can turn off the like hypercritical, super analyzing side. I need to throw up my walls. And then you can just like, and then start to really think or talk about something without any more blocks. So, this activity that you can find that maybe you already know what it is that puts you in the flow state, it's just hard to do that activity or make time for it. When you do that, it's so good for your brain. It's like doing a whole bunch of sports and then finally later on going like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so tense. Let me get a deep tissue massage and like relax this out," right? It's giving your brain that kind of massage without a massage of, okay, now just integrate everything you've learned in the way that makes sense, brain. I don't want to think about it anymore. I will do puzzles and I will think about different scenarios of funny life events or memories. And it's not me actively going, point A to point B to point C. They just come. And then I'm like, interesting, and move on to the next puzzle piece, right? I don't stay stuck on anything. When people try to talk to me when I'm doing puzzles, and my children know this too, I'm not the most responsive. I'm kind of like, again, I'm in that flow state. I'm like, my brain's turned off. And now you want me to bring my brain back into the picture. And it's like, I'm on vacation. I'm enjoying this. Leave me alone. So I will sometimes go, hold on a second, and then look at them, like take a deep breath and go, okay, what did you ask again? Because I am just so in the flow. Our brains need breaks. And for some of us, closing our eyes and taking that 20 or 30-minute pause during the day, or even taking 5 minutes to close your eyes and just focus on breathing, feels like, it kind of feels boring, or I don't really want to do that. Or like, again, resting, no, I don't have time. But if you can incorporate an activity that you can do that helps you feel like you're, quote, achieving, you're doing something, but allows you to turn off your brain. It's a win-win. When I do puzzles, I get to see the progress. So I feel like I'm achieving. And this is one of my hacks. Okay, when in other areas of my life I don't feel like I'm achieving, I will do a puzzle because I know I can do that. I know I can achieve in that area. And there was one Christmas where my husband's family gave me this puzzle that was all green. It was like this mossy, swampy lake. Everything was green. The trees were green in it. There were a few white rocks, but everything was different shades of green. And I realized I don't like super, super challenging, hard to do puzzles because it knocks me out of my flow state. I like 1,000, 2,000 piece puzzles that have a clear direction to what I'm doing, right? Beautiful landscape, interesting, pictures of things. I don't need it to all be green. So I need it to be something where I can get in that flow state. And if it takes me out of that flow state, if it's too challenging and frustrating and upsetting, nope, it's no fun anymore, right? Like I really need that flow state. And it is something I do every holiday, like every Christmas time. Like I'm usually one or two puzzles are done by the end of the break because it's my time to turn off. Now I'm incorporating this time in my week. I am rolling out the puzzle mat, I'm doing it during my lunch or whatever to just feel that sense of accomplishment and achievement, and also give myself a break, right? To finally turn my brain off. I used to have the same experience when I would go running, but it's like -6 degrees outside is the high right now, Celsius. No. So I don't do that right now. But there are many different activities I find that put me in this flow state. This is the one I know right now in this season of my life I can do. Thank goodness the kids are old enough. I can start doing this and it not get torn apart and puzzle pieces under the couch or things like that. What is your flow state activity? What is that thing that you lose track of time when you do? Is it reading? Is it creating something? Is it building something? It doesn't have to be puzzles. There's so many different activities. I know people who love to boulder, and when they're bouldering, like they're just in the zone. They don't have to think. It's natural. They've been doing it for so long. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know what my flow state is. Maybe when I was in my teens or early 20s, I would have done this and then that was my flow state. Go back to that activity. Try it again. Try to find space or time to do that thing and see if it helps create for you that state of flow. We all have things that help create this state. We have to figure out what they are. And once you figure out what your flow state activity is, then you can start to schedule it, plan it, incorporate it into your life. It might be that you leave work and you go bouldering, right? Or you make sure you get that run in. Or like in my situation, I roll out the puzzle mat at lunchtime. I eat my lunch and I set a timer. So I'm not like, oh my God, time has gone by so bad. I set a timer for how much time I have to just turn off. And I do that. Or at the end of the day, rolling out the puzzle mat or reading the book or whatever it is, but schedule it and understand that this is a healthy activity for your brain. Sometimes we feel like we need permission for some of these things we enjoy that don't really feel like they're moving the needle forward. They are, because they give our brain a break. And then we can integrate what we learn. You cannot become the master of any activity just by constantly doing. There is a point where you have to stop and think and then relax and allow it to become muscle memory. And as soon as it becomes muscle memory, you're there. The flow state can happen. So what is your flow state activity? And if you don't have it defined yet, what are things that you used to enjoy doing that help you just, be in a state of bliss, to relax and enjoy, but also give you enough of a focus where your brain is like, ooh, fun. I can turn off, but I know how to do this. I want to hear what it is. So find me on social media or send me an email at info@katierössler.com. Tell me what your flow state activity is. I am collecting a database of activities. I want to hear what my community and my listeners are using as their flow state activity so I can help others who are like, I'm stuck. I don't know. I want to find it because I need something like this and need some suggestions. So make sure to tag me on social media or send me a DM, send me an email, and let me know what your flow state activity is and how you're incorporating it into your week. Okay, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please make sure to leave a rating and review. Share it with somebody who needs to hear about the flow state as well. And here's to finding our balance code. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, take a moment to leave a rating and a review. Interested in learning more about my work and the resources I have to support you in this season of your life? Check out the links in the show notes to connect and learn more. And as always, here's to finding our balance code.